Process. 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 Everything.
Process is everything.
So how did y'all get to where you're at? Like, I know your dad, he retired from the Navy or got out of the Navy. He came home. There was a beekeeper involved. How did this, tell me this story.
Well, actually, he went into college, and then he knew he was going to be drafted, so he went ahead and decided to choose a service in the Navy rather than being drafted. Strangely enough, he was in the Navy and never got on a ship. He was in the intelligence part, so it was pretty good. He spent that time in the Philippines, I think, decoding messages and playing softball.
This is a wind talker.
And tennis.
This is awesome.
It's a Tuesday for me.
Yeah.
Pickleball.
And then when he came back, he had a teaching degree, but found out pretty quickly he didn't have the personality to teach in public school system. It was a little frustrating. So in looking for another line of work, of course, he really loved being outside and hunting and nature and that kind of thing, but he ran into a person who let him know that, how did it go, Kim? Just said,
He met this guy that was shaking trees for a living, and he says, look, you can make $1 a tree if you can just get out here. And he says, there's pecan orchards. This is the pecan capital of the world. You know, I'm making all this money. And he just borrowed and did everything he could to create enough money to buy a shaker. And so,
and that at that era, you know, in the early 70s, late 60s, people didn't have their own equipment. Mm-hmm. So, you know, every farm didn't have their own shaker. You had people climbing the trees or using bamboo, you know, to beat it out of there. So,
Gracious.
yeah.
So that's what he did. And he went, I mean, from all the way up to Montezuma to over here on 19, north of Americas and, south of Americas, actually. And then on both sides. And he started shaking trees. And he met this guy, Jimmy McClinton. He owned J&M Trucking. And he had about, I guess it's about 75 acres over there. So he started shaking his trees and met him, and he got into business with him. And he says, look, I need somebody to kind of work the grove. He kind of taught himself how to do it and started keeping journals on, you know, what to do each year, and ended up getting that grove with leasing it with option to buy it whenever Jimmy decided to sell it. So that was his first piece of property. So getting into the business there, and it kind of just blossomed from there. And then he's just continued to add land and more trees, and we keep planting trees. I don't know if we have enough descendants to take this through, like, you know, 4 different generations, but we're working on 2 right now. We've got a 3rd one coming up, so we'll see. We're hopeful that it will continue.
So 2 generations are working in the company now. Did you guys, now obviously your dad was already a farmer. He was doing this when you guys came along, and you said, I'm not going to be a pecan farmer, right? You went into nursing?
Well, he said, he actually, we used to, taking you back to when we were kids, it was my grandparents, Kelly and I. Michael wasn't quite big enough. We'd get a row apiece, and we had this little tool belt, and we had emitters, and so the squirrels would chew off the tops of the irrigation. So we all had to take a row, and every 3 feet there should be water. So everybody's
If you can't find water, you're digging.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we got to dig it up. We got to figure out, you know, where the water has stopped, how to get water to the next tree. So you should have 6 emitters on each side of the tree, and it's every 3 feet, and that has never left my brain.
Thankfully, there were no child labor laws at that time.
No doubt.
That we were aware of.
Right? You were
Right.
16.
Right. Yeah. So, and then we got really good at it. We were able to get 4-wheelers, and we can kind of go and spot check. But that's how we got into it. My dad had told us both. He says, don't do anything that is determined on the weather. You stay out of any business that's based off of weather, because there's so much that goes into, you know, crop management when it comes to if you don't have irrigated land versus, you know, the rainy season that comes, and when the pecans are trying to develop, it just gets kind of sketch. And you just never know. You just do everything you can do and pray the good Lord blesses you.
There's a lot going on there. You're against the weather, the economy, everything,
Right.
the taste of the people. So you guys are fighting as in the ag business. You're fighting the economy, people's taste, the weather, as you just mentioned. How did that affect? I know that had to affect him and you guys as a family. Like, oh, there's always this nervousness.
So I chose nursing. Kelly chose dental hygiene, and we left Americas. So fast forward 25, 30 years, and well, Kelly started back in the business, just kind of helping. My grandmother used to do the books. So
once I moved away from Americas, I'd come back on Fridays just to kind of hang out with them because, I like to see them. And I noticed that Dad's desk was pretty deep and that there were some past due notices. And I was like, what's going on? And he said, I don't really have time to come inside during the day and take care of all of this. And I don't feel like it at night. And so it gets done when it gets done. And I said, well, I can help you with that. So, you don't have to be a rocket science to make sure the bills are paid. So I did that just on my day off each week to make sure the lights stayed on. And, those farmers, they don't like to come sit down and deal with that. So that's kind of how it blossomed for me. After doing that for a few years, things started growing and we started getting more acreage. And it wasn't a full-time job, but it was more than a on my day off job. So.
Little did she know she was going to become an accountant.
A self-appointed CFO.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Now, was Michael, your younger brother, was he already working in the business, or did he decide at the time you guys did to come back?
He's really never left the farm.
Okay.
He has always been a part of it. He did take a job years ago, shortly out of high school. He tried college for, I think, one semester, if that. And then he did Radio Shack, a job there. But the plan has always been, to have Michael take over the farm. So he kept shooting for that boy. That's why we had 3 kids. Because Dad, when we were coming up, he was like, I got 2 girls. I got to keep going, man. Right. So I got to have somebody take this stuff on.
You could have wound up with 13 sisters, though, with that plan.
It very well could. My mom comes from a family of 7.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yes, it could have very well happened that way, but luckily it didn't. But yeah, we just, like Kelly said, she was doing it. It got to be a little bit more than a day a week, and she was spending 2 or 3 days a week and still doing part-time dental hygiene. I'm over here just playing in the nursing field, moving up through the ranks at Phoebe Putney, and enjoyed that thoroughly until, later on, I just finally, I kept itching for, I've been doing this a long time. I'm ready to do something different. And I called my dad, actually, and I said, I think I might apply for a different position. I think I may get into sales or something along those lines. And he's like, wait, we need a board meeting.
Yeah.
We got to have a board meeting because we've been talking about some things and before you do anything. And I said, well, you cannot afford me. So, there's no way I can make the salary for the farm that I can make with the nursing degree. And then I started thinking about, what? I've always wanted to transition. The whole reason I went and got a graduate degree was so that if something ever happened and Michael didn't want to do it or whatever, if I got an MBA, I could hopefully try to find people that could help us manage the farm. We could keep that legacy going. Kelly and I have always had a passion for it, and wanted to make sure that it just kept going. So that's kind of how that worked. We had a board meeting, which usually takes place right after lunch, 12:30.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
the staff meeting is nap time. Board meeting is completely different.
I'm mixed up. See,
Okay, I know the
mixed up.
code. I like that.
Well, Michael and Dad and I have been thinking as things changed in the economy and the tariffs had gone up in China and that kind of thing, we needed to find a different way to sell pecans. Wholesale had done us really well for a while, but we needed to get into the retail business. And we had a retail store years ago. Mom and my grandmother had done that, and they even had a store uptown, and it was very popular. It was before the internet, and so it was mail order and 1-800 numbers and all that. So what we toyed with just for one season was just opening it up locally, having something basic. And everybody in America's already knew that we had good pecans. They're familiar with our candy from years ago. So it didn't take maybe a month for everybody to go, they're back.
Awesome.
And it got a little bit bigger than me pretty quick. And then Kim started, tapping this little, I want to go do something else. And so that's when we took about 3 weeks to go, I'm going to pray about this and see.
Bringing us all in together. Are you kidding?
Working with family, it's a big deal. Yeah. It's a big deal to be not just visiting on birthdays and holidays, but every single day. So, it took a couple of 3 weeks for us to go, okay, can we work together every single day? Can we, look each other in the face and go, all right, your idea is better than mine. And but Kim and I are so different in that I know that I can't run a retail business on my own because I'm not extroverted. I can't go out and I've knocked on doors and told people about the gospel, but I've never knocked on doors and tried to sell them pecans.
Right.
So
different level of importance, though,
different
right?
motivations for sure. But Kim can do all those things, and so we really needed her to come do this.
You guys mentioned, we were on a call the other day together, and you guys mentioned that there's a key and a process to working together as siblings and mom and dad being in the business. Tell us about that, because you guys had some great points, and I wanted to make sure that I remembered that.
That's true. We were moving from the office in the shop to an actual building that we were going to be getting into. And a friend of ours, longtime friend of ours, Chris Herron, I never thought I would ever quote Chris Herron. Bless his heart. But he was doing some work. Yeah, he was doing some work on the office for us, and he went into business with his dad. Mm-hmm. And we were kind of looking at him going, how have you done this for the last however many years? And he said, I'll tell you the truth, that we have to treat family like coworkers. When you're in business together, you can't treat family like family. You have to treat them like coworkers. There is a level of respect there that you can't cross. So that's kind of what
and it
we do.
works. It stuck with us. I mean, because she told that to me, and I was like, that's really, really pretty smart.
Mm-hmm.
That is smart. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah,
I know. Got to thank him for that.
Here at Due Process in the Levy, I think I'm going to respect you more, man. I mean, we're not brothers, but I think I'm going to do that.
We're going to take naps after lunch.
Yeah,
too.
not together.
Meetings.
Staff meetings.
that's a requirement for sure.
Tell me, it seems like I'm asking all the questions here, so Blake, please jump in anytime you feel like it. But I'm kidding. For the people who don't know, and there's a lot of pecans in South Georgia, in this area, we get it. First of all, is it pecans or pecans?
We sell both.
Okay.
I knew she was going to say that.
But see, I love that, right? That's hilarious.
Which one's more expensive?
Pecans.
Pecans.
Yeah, pecans are yard
Pick those
nuts.
up off the ground.
That's right.
Yeah.
But you shake out
when
the
they come into
pecans.
the store, they are now the gourmet version. Pecans.
I love it.
Right.
I love it.
right.
You can't have pecan flavored coffee. It just doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Pecans.
Are y'all still in wholesale?
Mm-hmm.
What part of or what percentage of your business is wholesale and
I'd
retail?
say 90% right now is wholesale.
Yeah. That's awesome. So with the land, how much land do you have, and how did it evolve from getting that one shaker and getting a little bit of land to what you have today?
Oh, wow. So it was about 75 acres that we started out at where our house is now. That was about 75, and he has just expanded. And we are up to about 1,200 acres in production currently.
That's awesome.
So it's been a little bit along. He's tried some different ventures, as he was trying to get the retail world when my mom was doing the candies and stuff. We tried to do those. I know you've been in the little quickie stores and seen the little roasted nuts, not pecans. It's peanuts
They
or
say nuts,
almonds,
yeah.
and they're salted. They're in the little slender
Yep.
tube. But we tried that. I remember when we were teenagers, we were driving up to Atlanta to find some packaging guy or something that we could, put these nuts in. But he's still trying to farm the business. So it just really, he needed more, more bandwidth to be able to kick that kind of stuff off. So that's where now, Kelly and I have come in to help diversify and give us a second way to sell pecans. We're trying to get into different markets, which the coffee is another one that we have tapped into, which I'm a huge coffee lover. Anybody that has listened to this podcast that knows me from Phoebe knows that I was in Starbucks at least 3 times a day.
Yeah.
I was way over caffeinated. Made me really passionate on most days. But I needed a coffee outlet if I was coming out of healthcare, and so I kept saying I've always wanted to have a little coffee store, always. So when we tapped into this pecan coffee, I just was ecstatic, and it's good. It's really good. It's not Starbucks, but it is. I've never really been a flavored coffee person, but it seems to be really great. So
I think the difference between our coffee and Starbucks is you can actually drink it black. You don't have to fill it full of all of the sugar and foam and
And
cream.
it tastes
and,
good.
yeah. But back to your question, it has been just, if we have a good year, we buy more land. If we don't have a good year, if we're struggling, I mean, my dad has worked just to pay the bank off, every year. So we are rich in assets. I won't say rich, but, we have plentiful assets. We don't have a lot of cash flow. But that's
farming.
That's
That's
what
what
you have
farming
to
works.
do. We have to have more equipment. We have to keep bringing on more labor, and it's a
We've been
lot.
very fortunate in that when the opportunity has presented itself with adjacent landowners, and they've sold their property, we have been in a position where we could, take advantage of that. And they've offered it to us. He has a good amount of respect in the community. So when people are close to us or think that we could benefit from that, then they bring it to him. And fortunately, we've been in a position where we could take advantage of it. So.
It really helps when you can have your equipment and your land in the same spot.
Oh, yeah.
Because we've got several orchards. We manage a couple of properties towards the river, and then we've got a property on the other side of Americus. So you're having to haul equipment into both, and you really can't afford to buy 2 sets of equipment, so it gets kind of hard. So anytime we can make a deal to get most of our stuff right there where the operation is, it's a win.
And I heard that Mike and your dad will plant a pecan tree on a median if it's just
I'm
sit still.
serious, right? You need to come see that. I'm sure Jason told you about his visit. We have trees in all stages of life, all over the place.
Yeah.
So.
You guys talked about efficiencies, which that excites us being process people. Talk to us about the process as you guys came along, and you mentioned having the equipment near the land and everything as centralized as you can. What are some of the processes in a 50,000-foot view? So what are some of the processes from tree to me as far as getting that nut into this bag, which Horne Pecan gave us some goodies today. I'm excited. Thank you. But
Even
what
just
is that like?
just planting the tree, you're not going to get a pecan and put it in the ground and get a viable nut.
That's right.
So you've got to go and have trees that have been grafted into what you want. You have to make sure you've got the male and the female, the pollinators and all that. It's more complicated than I realized coming into this. And then it takes 6 years for any production, 10 to get full production. So it's an investment. It's not something you're going to get into overnight and say you want to be a pecan farmer. But the process in January is resting up from the harvest season, and then in February you prune the trees, make sure everything is efficient for when they're going to bud out, and then March, April you start getting your buds. Then you have to go and make sure your bugs don't take everything that you got. So that's your seasonal issues with the rain and the wind and the hurricanes that come through. You're fighting that all through the summer. Come September, things get where you get excited. You start to see the real nuts on the trees and that kind of thing. So the harvesting process will begin towards the end of September. And they go through and shake the trees. We have a YouTube video on our website that you can watch them come in and shake the trees. It's really kind of cool to watch how that they reach up and grab a tree and just shake it to death and everything falls out. And then a sweeper comes along and sweeps them all up into rows and kind of blows out some of the leaves. And then you've got the harvester that runs over the rows, dumps it into the back of a wagon, haul the wagons into the shop, dry them in a dryer, run them through a belt where everybody picks out all of the bad stuff, drop them in a 1,500-pound sack, and you go from there. Now we can make sure that we have the right varieties. So you have to pick your trees. You're going to get slies and pawnees and pawnees. You don't want to just shake everything out there because the varieties are different. People don't know there's hundreds of varieties of pecan trees, but it makes a huge difference in the taste and the size and how easy they are to shell. And you also want to size them out. So you want to separate the big ones from the small ones, even within the varieties. And we have a blower that blows out stuff that's too light, and
A lot that's going on.
it is a lot.
It's a huge process.
Now, I know it's not you guys out there. How many people do you have in the sorter machines in your whole operation? How many people do you have running this thing?
That's hopefully going to change this year a little bit. But typically during the season, we're going to bring in some seasonal employees, 20 to 30,
Wow.
that we're going to have out in the field. Right now, we're managing a payroll of about 10. So it's going to kick up. We've already started interviewing for the retail side, and then we'll have to bring in for the farm side as well. And if there's not enough people on the farm side, we're going to be back in there, I'm sure. So I don't know.
That was one motivation for me opening the real retail store. Whenever Dad would come into the office and see me with nothing to do, he's like, "Put your boots on. We need."
Oh yeah, you got to find
Get
something
on the
to do
tractor.
inside.
Let's go
Right.
mow.
Stay busy.
Yeah. But we actually just made a pretty big purchase, another equipment asset that we hope is going to improve our efficiency when we get to processing the pecans, because we have several pickers on the belt, because you've got rabbits coming across there, turtles, anything you could imagine, along with those bad nuts. And you've got to pick out the bad ones so that you can get the good ones. Well, they have some huge piece of equipment called a pre-cleaner now. Right. So once we have shaken the nuts or shaken the trees and they're on the ground, this pre-cleaner can come and kind of sweep them up and really knock out a lot more stuff than we were getting out before. So they're saying that once we pick them up with a harvester and bring them in, we're not going to need but one person maybe on that belt, where we've been running 5 or 6. Yeah. So if we can have them cleaner before we even bring them into the plant, that's going to put them out ready to go, tree to home. A lot faster. So, and hopefully save us some dollars on labor. So we'll see.
That's good.
It'll be our first year doing that, so we'll see how it goes.
That's awesome. I'd like to see how efficient that works.
Yeah, we do too. We're hoping.
We need that pre-cleaner for Blake's language. But anyway, what were you guys like as kids? I mean, growing up, did you help out on the farm, and like, did you try to stay away from it, or what was that all about?
It wasn't optional.
Right.
No.
Right.
No, and Dad likes to say before he could afford employees, we were the employees. So
right. He produced his own
Since
employees.
they didn't have child labor laws, we did a lot after school. I mean, we've always been involved, and then even up into getting into nursing school, Tiffany and I would go out there on the weekends, and because we needed money, and I had my own apartment, so we'd pick up nuts where the harvester couldn't get to them.
Cool.
So we'd be in the ditches picking up nuts and for extra money and take them into Dad. And he's like, "You put rocks in this bag."
Paid me by the pound.
Yeah,
Love it.
So yeah, we would do that. We've always been connected, you know, to that process and picking on the belt. And I remember coming up as kids, and I don't know how we didn't die, but my grandfather would let us sit back in the harvester, and the wagon is behind the harvester. So there's a conveyor belt just throwing limbs and pecans and everything. And we're back there. He says, "Spread them out."
Real safe.
Because they get this little funnel, and you need to like smooth them out so that you can get more nuts in there. And I was like, I don't know how we didn't die. Because you are not supposed to be in there.
Well, we didn't wear seat belts when we were kids.
Right.
We stood up in the seat.
yeah, I think a lot of that work on the farm was motivation for us to go get real jobs.
They wanted us out of the house. They were trying to get rid of us.
Yeah, it's like you can either be out here sweating and working, or you can go get an education. So, yep, college, here we come.
So that's interesting.
That
when
is true.
you went out into the real world, you said, but when you came back, you had some new insights.
Yeah.
Give me some examples of what that looked like, too, when you brought it back in. Like, for one thing, you walked in and saw a stack of bills. You're like, Dad, we probably should do this more than once a week. Right? That's a new insight.
Yeah. Well, just living life outside of the farm was always good, and learning how to. I don't know what I'm seeing in my children now as they're growing up and getting their first jobs and getting out of college and all that is just learning how to create boundaries, learning how to treat peers, just learning how to function outside of your family in the real world. And those things are priceless. I wouldn't change a thing. I loved my job. I loved dental hygiene. I loved the one-on-one where I got to talk and no one could talk back. You know, part of things. But, you know, you really just can't manufacture that experience without going in and doing it.
Now, do you think the next generation will come in and take over?
You know, I see a lot of potential in little Hannah. Michael's got 3 kids. So she is the girl, the only girl. He's got 2 boys. And, you know, I don't really see an interest in the pecan business at all, but for them right now, but that Michael was the same way. It took a long time for him to land there, but they're doing it. I mean, little Lane, he is 13 now. And he's out mowing the grass at Horne Pecan Company because
Awesome.
we need a yard man.
Oh, yeah.
So they put him on the mower, and then Hannah called me about 2 weeks ago and said, "Aunt Kim, can I come and work during the summer? I want to help out." She is 11. I think
She got an
I
eye
get
for
my
business.
ages.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So
Love it.
and honestly, it was last year, maybe the year before. Kelly was moving into her house, and it was like the peak of our busiest season. But she had to do that, so she needed to be off that week. And I had Christine, Michael's wife, in there. I had Hannah in there helping me get packaged nuts into the bags because we have a candy maker, so we have to get them all prepared. And then there's people coming in through the front door in the store wanting gifts for their family, and I just couldn't divide. I had to divide and conquer, so I called in all the family, which will be that way forever, I'm sure, because that's what we have to do. But I do see Hannah. I think that Lane and Luke, maybe we were hoping that Alyssa has gone and got an accounting degree, Kelly's daughter. So maybe someday she'll come take over this paperwork for us.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
That would be my goal for her. And then Kelly's got 2 others. I kind of recruited Nicole, her oldest, into the nursing field. So she's going into paramedic school. She's EMT now. I've tried to pull her into the ER with me years ago, and it stuck. So she's in the emergency medical field. And Micah hasn't graduated yet. He's 15. Actually, about to be 16.
He'll be 16 next week. Yeah.
He'll be driving, so
right.
I'm not sure if he'll come on this way or not. You just never know when they're that young. Because I never would have thought we would have come back to America, to be honest with you. I always thought there was a possibility that I may be needed because I was the firstborn and I'm supposed to be the one to take the farm, but I'm not a man and I can't work on the equipment. So the only thing I can do is use my smarts maybe to help it move along. So that's the reason I went further on in school, but that's always been in the back of my head. Never thought it would become a reality.
And now here you are.
Yeah.
So with retail products, how many products do you have? And I'm just curious, what does R&D look like? I mean, obviously this wasn't your first take on how this thing tasted. I'm going to taste this later.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure it's amazing.
It is.
But did you go through a lot of iterations of what's in this package and some of the other things that you sell, the coffee and other things?
We have the coffee was definitely an investment in our time, but that particular product right there, the roasted with milk chocolate, that is the same product that our mom used way back then, and it's priceless
Tried
to
and
us.
true, man.
It's like when you go back and eat your grandma's pecan pie, and you're like, oh, it takes you back. Every time we eat one of those, it's like, yep.
It's consistent. Yeah.
So yeah, we have found a few other things that we investigated and worked through, and we've contracted with some candy makers to get some things done. But that roasted milk chocolate, that's a classic.
That's our staple,
wait.
I think you would say. The coffee, it took a full-blown year trying to figure out a partner because we knew what the taste needed to be, we wanted it to be like. We wanted it to be like when you walked away from it, you're like, oh my gosh, I just really like that. So we sampled flavored coffees all over the place. That we found a guy.
We tried to create our own too.
We did. We tried to build our own. We were looking in Americas with, help me, Cafe Campesino. Yeah, I just lost it. So we were wanting to work with them. They're completely organic, and I wasn't married to that thought. I just wanted it to taste good. So
America.
so we were like, okay, well maybe that won't work. And they had tried and tried. When I talked with them, they had tried to come up with a good tasting pecan flavored coffee and still hadn't hit the mark yet. So we kept researching, and we got with Temp Coffee here in Albany, and he worked with us through
so
several
sweet.
batches, and he's the sweetest guy. I told him, I said, you've spent so much time. He says, I really enjoy it, but he's trying to do his own thing too, and it was just not coming. What he had to mix together, it wasn't coming together like we wanted. The coffee tasted great, but it wasn't the taste we were looking for. So we finally found a partner. They are actually another pecan grower. They've got a very small orchard, and they have found a roaster that can get it just right with our pecans. So, and there's pecans in the beans that they roast, so it's like
Wow.
real.
Cool.
So it tasted great. And I said, well, we're going back. I said, I don't know if y'all would do this or not, but is there any way you would partner with us? We want to, you know,
Instead of reinventing the wheel.
yes,
Right.
we knew the taste we were looking for, because my husband and I had just gone on a day trip to Eufaula, Alabama, and happened upon this store. And I went in there and had bought every one of the little coffees, and I was like, oh my God, it's
This is it.
amazing. It's amazing. So then for a year, I kept trying to find somebody to emulate that, and we could never get it. And so I finally called him up and like, I don't know who I need to talk to, but I need to talk to somebody in the management, see if we can kind of partner together. And now we have. So.
A side benefit of that is we've become really good friends with them. They're great people. We love them.
Now, do you ship your stuff to them and they make the coffee over there? Is that how that works, or are they shipping?
It's all integrated, but yes, we go back and forth with them.
awesome.
So.
They were just here last week, and they picked up 4 cases of pieces, and they came to visit us. I said, well, let's save some shipping. I need some coffee.
Put this in your car.
Maybe, yeah, you send me the whole bean. I'll have the pieces ready for you when you come. We'll make a swap.
So they roast pecans with the
It's in the beans.
It's in the beans. It's separate. If you roast it with the beans, you get not the flavor you're looking for, and so they roast the beans and then they put the pecans in. So they're ground with the beans.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Maybe I said
Yes.
it wrong, didn't
Is that what's in here that I have?
Butter pecan.
I? Which one is it?
Butter.
Butter pecan. That's this. Hey, Andrew.
Oh yeah.
Hit me with this.
No, that's a baller move right
Uh-huh.
Yes.
there. We got the Keurig in the levy.
Keurig.
Oh yeah.
Andrew is the newest team member. He is
Yeah, there you go.
I'm gonna compare it to this McDonald's coffee.
right here
Oh,
on the
hands
podcast.
down.
Do you drink it black?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Because I've got people like they want to put all the creamer and stuff in
No.
it. They love it with the creamer, but I'm like, you really can't tell true coffee taste until you do it black. And ours is a light roast. It's not a medium or a dark roast, so it's a very light roast. But it doesn't. It doesn't taste bitter, and that's what we kept coming back
That's what it
over
is.
and over.
It's
It
not
was
bitter.
bitter, and I
Yeah.
said, this is not right. But yes, when we finally got back to where we started, and I was able to have the conversation, it was a huge win. So.
Why is it important in your business as you're growing? You guys are massively growing every year. You know, from us looking outside, right? It seems like you guys have always been this huge organization, but you know differently. Started out with 7 to 5 acres and 7 to 5. Where am I? 7 to 5 acres. But I mean, you see the growth, and it's because you guys actually are trying to do things. So what do you do? Who do you associate yourself with? What books are you reading? Present company excluded. Don't associate yourself with us. But who are you looking to? Industry leaders, and it don't even have to be in your industry, but reading those books, those podcasts. What are you doing just to stay sharp?
Well, innovation-wise, I think it's really it takes a collaborative effort. So we are involved with the Georgia Pecan Growers Association. They actually send out a newsletter magazine every month. So we read those articles. We try to stay on top of that. There is a huge marketing push through the National Pecan Foundation that's trying to really take people, consumers all over, and have them thinking more pecans in their meals. Like, you know, you get these Green Chef meals. I do that on occasion, and they send almonds, packs of almonds. Why not pecans?
Yeah.
Pecans are healthier for you. They're higher in antioxidants. They have a great flavor, but everybody's pushing all these almonds. So it's hard to be innovative, but right now the big push in marketing is for it to be the topper on your salads, using pecans for ice cream. You know, butter pecan ice cream with chopped up pecans on top, you know, putting it on top of your salads, on top of your fish. We were able to strike a path with the coffee. Next, I'm not sure what the next step will be. It's always, we're trying to find different ways to introduce the pecan to consumers, but it's a huge collaborative effort, and being involved in those organizations. The Southeastern Pecan Growers Association is another one that we go to conferences there to try to learn more. A lot of it's more focused on the growing side of things. There has not been a real huge push on the retail side of things. So that's where we are getting there. The National Pecan Federation has come in, and they're just putting a lot of marketing dollars, and every grower is contributing to that. They want to see it increase the price of the pecans, but, you know, they're not seeing it on that end of it, and they're putting money out to get that return on investment. But the more people you get eating pecans, the better it is for the whole industry. So that's where we're at.
That's kind of one of all the boats are going to rise with the tide. They're trying to educate on one side, but they're just educating about pecans, which helps you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And we also have done a lot with the University of Georgia, their agricultural small business and the research that they do in pecans and stuff. That's almost an everyday thing for us, is making the resources that the University of Georgia provides available to us.
Yeah, that's that digital marketing thing that I'm going to on too.
I think you got a pretty good marketing team on your side too. We won't talk about those, but yes, that's right. Up at Georgia Southwestern, you're attending these marketing things. So Andrew just brought in pecan coffee.
Immediately the aroma
it's
on
filling
the
the
nose is a 9.7.
Good gracious, that's
go.
awesome. You're like regular Dave Portnoy for coffee. We have one
That's
listener, and it's Blake's
It may be
mom.
because I just got done with McDonald's, but that's really good. I would do this every day.
So
yeah.
we do.
Yeah, I might do this every day. That's awesome.
So the bourbon pecan is Kelly's favorite.
It is.
I really, I started out liking the Snapping Turtle. It's caramel, chocolate, and pecans. But I have
gracious.
leaned back to butter. Butter is now my top. But then I switch. You know, I'll have butter and I'll, go through my whole pound size bag. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to do bourbon this time. So I just go between every one. And we have 5 of them.
I would love for my house to smell like this
Oh, yeah.
every
It will.
morning.
Smells
It
great.
does.
That's if I buy coffee from the grocery store because I'm in there and it's convenient and it's on sale. I come home, my husband says, I can't do this. Why do we have coffee and you won't brew the coffee? I said, sometimes I run out. I'm sorry. But he says we should never, ever not have good coffee in this house.
Do y'all ever do like French press or anything like that, or it's all kind of pot, Keurig
Yep.
stuff?
That's what we've done. It took us forever to get the Keurig thing off the ground. Everybody was coming in like, oh, I really like little K-cups. And we're like, oh, gosh, how do we get to that? So
What was that process like?
maddening because you've got to get specific cups. And so we are actually, our partner that's doing this, we're buying the cups from her and then we're filling it on our side. But we didn't know what type of stickers that we needed to get. So she's printing stickers for us because we started looking at purchasing our own stickers and creating the labels and the branding and all the things, and it was just astronomically expensive, and we're not there yet.
Yeah.
So until then, until we can get our own little label printer or whatever she's doing, then we're just gonna buy them from her, and then we just package them ourselves. So it's when you go back to efficiencies and talking about process, it is something that we're not in the place that we'd like to be. We could be better, but you just have to take baby steps. I mean, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And that's all I can say about that. We do a lot of things, then we come back to base and say, okay, this isn't working as well as we thought. Let's try something different. I mean, just yesterday, one of our girls, we had rung up a bundle of pieces and charged the person, for the whole bundle, and the tiles on our point of sale were one package of pieces and a bundle of pieces are side by side. They're named almost identical. They say 16-ounce raw chopped pieces and 16-ounce raw chopped pieces bundle. And she was like, I'm so sorry, we have all done it, Kelly said when she responded. I said, okay, wait, we need to rename it. We need to change it. We need to start that tile off with bundle 16-ounce pieces, and the other one just says 16-ounce. And then you're going to see, your mind's going to recognize that it's different. Instead of it being the same thing and we're making the same mistake. If we keep doing the same thing and making the same mistake, how stupid are we? We're not even in harvest season. Let's fix it. So I think that is one thing that Kelly is much better at than I am. She can see straight through a detail and get to that point where here it is, here's the simplest form, and we can make it happen. But I did it yesterday. So maybe she's rubbing off on me.
I think probably the best thing that has ever happened to us is we have a good product. So it doesn't matter what we do. We'll figure it out eventually, but it all goes back to it's good stuff regardless of if we mess it up or not. It's still good stuff. You're getting a good product.
That's awesome. So we talked a little bit earlier about weather. Were y'all affected by the storms in 17, 18?
Both.
And what was that time like? Because I know a lot of farmers that had a pretty rough time during
Some
those
of them
couple
are out
of
of
years.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that like for you and your family and your company?
It was a lot to deal with. I go back through the pictures on my phone and on my computer, and I had to go out into the orchards and take photographs of all of the down trees, and I mean just hundreds of photographs, and even more hundreds of trees that were gone. So it was pretty devastating, and just the cleanup and all that. And I guess it doesn't compare to loss of life or loss of home. But still, it'll shake you pretty good to walk out into an orchard and see 50 trees just laying on the ground.
So if you don't know much about pecan trees, they have very shallow roots. So we can take massive amounts of rain, even though we don't like it because it causes more problems with bugs, but we cannot take wind.
Yeah.
You get gale force winds and straight line winds, and it's going to wipe them out. And I want to say, Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say it was about 30% of our crop that we lost on that storm. But there were some people that lost their entire crop. I mean, Camilla area, it hit much harder.
Not just their crop, their farm.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it's 10 years before you're going to be back in production. And not only that year, but just having 2 years in a row where you have hurricanes come through, and then you've got another year where the trees are recovering because they've been through so much stress. There's 3 years in a row where you've got just a fraction of what you are accustomed to.
That's where the availability of capital to have investment in other, orchards that may not have been hit so much. That's why it's important, right?
Yes.
And insurance.
Insurance. Well, yes, we were insured, so we were.
And, government programs and all that. Everybody, they try to help farmers, thankfully, because they know it's so difficult, and it's also a requirement. We couldn't do life without them.
And Kelly has the patience of Job because she can fill out all those forms. She's really good at details. Did I mention that?
Oh, yeah. Detail oriented. Well, we thank you so much for your time. Being with us. It's exciting to see businesses in our area growing, and y'all are doing the right thing. It seems like you've got your processes in place, your people in place, but it seems like, and I don't want to get, mushy, but your heart is right. You're doing it for the right reasons, and your families are all together. And I think that's cool.
Thank you.
And you said you have kids that are coming up, might be the third generation of Horne farmers.
Fingers crossed.
That's awesome.
I get my hooks in the hand.
We always play a game with our guests before we let you go. It's called First Class or Bus Pass.
We talking first class or just a bus pass?
I'm just going to throw something out there. If you love it, it's first class. If you don't like it, it's bus pass. Okay? So I'll give you an example. Blake, cold pizza.
I would say first class
Okay.
only if it's for breakfast. Though.
All right. So these are kind of tailored to you, and we're just kind of shooting from the hip here. So very first question, that little piece of bitter wood that gets in a pecan sometimes that just...
That's a
Drive
bus
me
pass for sure. Yeah.
No, just kidding. Atlanta Braves baseball. Are you guys baseball fans at all?
First
First
class.
class.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, all day.
All right. And the Georgia Bulldogs, I know people get crazy sometimes.
First class for me.
Okay.
Bus pass for me.
And you went to Auburn, right?
I didn't go there,
Okay.
but I'm an Auburn fan. So.
And you can't help us out after 2 years of just can't get
No,
us
I root
that.
for Georgia when they're not playing Auburn.
Okay, same
now,
here.
my husband's a Georgia fan, so we have a split household, and
So
I'm
do
all
I.
about, I'll support them.
I'm a fan of anyone who's playing Alabama.
Ooh, me too.
Ooh, yeah.
I like that.
touche for
Yeah.
sure.
My wife's a big Auburn fan, and I've married into their family. They're all Auburn. She married into us. We're all Georgia. And that's right. Auburn,
Yeah.
Georgia Day is a tough day around here.
Yeah. And we got 2 TVs, so we make sure that we can watch both games. And
What
They're
about TikTok?
I'm in between on that.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
I can love it or leave it.
Everybody, do y'all have TikTok
I
accounts?
do. Oh, I know.
No.
I watch it, so
I
I
don't
guess.
have an
So you
account.
got an account.
So you
Yeah, you got an account if you're watching
I don't
it.
have
Yeah.
a page.
I don't
I
post,
use it to
but I
communicate with my children.
Yes.
So that's how we tap each other.
I use it
love
for
it.
recipes.
Really?
Where I get all my
Oh,
food
yeah.
recipes.
My
Cat,
husband does
cat
that.
videos.
Well, we do love the cat videos. She's a cat mom for sure, all day.
And then last question here is long meetings, pointless long meetings.
Bus pass.
a little back history on that. Now, I do have some questions that one of our staff members, and I wanted to throw it to this section. I'll let you guess who it is after I ask the question. Have you ever had anybody sneak in wearing a squirrel costume to smuggle out pecans? That was Jared. I'm sorry.
That's never happened.
I can't say.
That's never happened, no. But we have had some theft, people. You'd
Really?
be surprised. Well, pecans are
I
expensive.
believe
Yeah, I
that. Yeah.
can.
We've had people pull up and open their trunk and take a shovel and just start
Oh, no.
digging out of a wagon. Oh, yeah.
We've had people try to steal a whole wagon that was sitting behind the plant. I mean, they drove in there, hooked up their truck to pull the wagon out, and got stuck or something.
Yeah.
And so now we've got a compound around the plant.
Hey, I was
because
going
it
to
just-
say, you need a sniper up
Yeah,
there on
it's
this.
crazy, and it's right past Michael's house. I mean, family dwelling is right within 100 yards of where
Yeah.
this is at. It's crazy.
Not to mention hey, it's in the ditch, it's free game. No.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we get lots of people. They think that if it's on the ground, it's anybody's. Not actually
You
somebody's.
forget that
so.
you own the land and the tree, and you're
Yes.
trespassing anyway.
Yeah, so we do have a bumper sticker that says, "Eat pecans, millions of satisfied squirrels do."
Yes.
Well, thank y'all for your time. You guys got to come back and hang out with us again soon, and bring more coffee.
Yeah, thanks for the
Pecan
goodies.
coffee.
Yeah, you're
Thank you
welcome.
for letting us come. It's fun.
Thank y'all.
All right.
To find out more about Horne Pecan, visit their website at hornepecancompany.com. You'll be glad you did. Today's show is brought to you in part by Due Process. Standardize, onboard, and optimize. Click or call today to see how we can help take your business to the next level. DueProcessUSA.com. Process is Everything is a production of the Levy Studios. It's the right thing to do. Visit thelevystudios.com for more information. Subscribe to Process is Everything wherever you find your favorite podcast.
Process is everything.